Welcome back, everybody, to On Pit Row. Steve Ronkwitz and Charlie Turner with you live from the original Gino's Pizza and Grill. Very happy to have on our bench racing hotline an analyst with ESPN. You see him on NASCAR now. He does the pre- and post-race analysis for ESPN's racing coverage, one of 15 drivers to have wins in all three of NASCAR's major touring series. He is the 1992 Busch Series Rookie of the Year, the 1995 Cup Series Rookie of the Year, and an overall cool guy. Ricky Craven joins us. Welcome to the show, Ricky.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. The Cup Series was at New Hampshire last week. That track holds, I know, a lot of fond memories for you, seeing as you're a New Englander. Talk to me about that racetrack. There was an awful lot of people who were complaining about that race because nothing really happened at that racetrack as far as this race this last weekend. But tell me about your experiences there and your, feeling good about that racetrack.
Well, so I can go all the way back to 1990 when the track was being built. And I lived 10 miles south of the track in Concord, New Hampshire. I actually watched it kind of sprout up and become what it is today. But I could even go back into the mid '80s when I raced there. It was a 5/8 mile track that was completely tore up and replaced with what we see today. At home, I'm a New England boy, so it's always been the highlight of my year. Those races. It was one race originally, and then it became two events. But not the easiest track to compete on. It's flat. The Sprint Cup Series cars prefer banked tracks. The left side tires work harder, and the cars drive better on banked tracks. But having said that, I think it's pretty exciting to watch drivers like what Denny Hamlin did last week, negotiate traffic and navigate their way to the front from 32nd spot. I thought that was pretty impressive.
It is amazing how a certain driver and a certain track combination just seems to find its way together. Denny Hamlin, we were talking about this race last week, who you're going to pick. We talked to our fantasy guys and all that, and it's like, okay, well, you're going to take Denny Hamlin, but if you have to take somebody else, who is it? I mean, he has that track figured out, and what is it about that some guys can just get to a certain racetrack and they just are one with that racetrack?
That's really insightful because that's really what exists with race car drivers. Like other athletes, I suppose there are different ballparks that players might be a little more comfortable in. Some players rather than others, and you've got home court advantage for basketball. For whatever reason, it seems to be such a big deal that some drivers. Basketball players play better at home, right? But the court's no different.
Right.
The size of it's no different. But so you take a flat track like New Hampshire, and it suits Denny Hamlin's style. I've been saying for years that Denny is one of the best short track drivers I've ever seen. He is so good through the middle of the turn, which is a reflection of his footwork. We don't often get a chance to see the footwork inside the race car. We can identify the driver's hands and the steering wheel, but what really makes a great flat track driver is a driver's ability to complement what he's doing inside the car with his footwork, and that's where Denny, I think, separates himself from most.
All right, I'm getting our interview backwards a little bit because I wanted to talk about Ricky Craven first instead of talking about the chase. So I'm gonna drop back here a little bit, and I want to go back to your roots a little bit, where you were born in Newburgh, Maine. You got your start running locally, 1983, at age of 15, which is really kind of late by today's standards. But I'm gonna assume back in '83, that's starting at 15, you were on the cutting edge.
Yeah, I couldn't race any earlier than that, and I worked a deal with my dad. He helped me purchase this Chevelle when I was 13 years old, and he says, if you can get it done, I'll let you race it. You can't race before you're 16. But my birthday was May 24th, and I got the car done. It surprised him.
I was going to say, you probably never figured you'd get it done.
He really didn't, and for sure my mom didn't. What my mom didn't like is I grew up in the snow belt, and that car occupied her spot in the garage.
Oh,
so,
man.
So I dominated the garage for a couple of years. My buddies would come get off the school bus with me and help me work on that car. Anyway, we got it done. We convinced the track owner to let me race, even though I wasn't 16. And the second race I ran, I won. Now, I remember that because it was my first win, but I also remember it because it was such a special set of circumstances. Bobby Allison was there that night as a guest, signing autographs, and he came over and gave me his hat. I just, I can't imagine a more special set of circumstances than having one of your heroes be there the night you won your first race.
You were one of kind of a wave of guys who came out of the Northeast, you and Steve Park, and there was a host of other guys really that kind of were that first wave of non-traditional Southern good old boys. I can't believe I said that. I try to forget that. But you're kind of that first group that came down and really kind of were trying to change the way NASCAR was. And you had a pretty good effect on that, along with you and Park and Richmond and all those guys. Was there a time where these guys looked at you and said, "What are you trying to do here?"
Oh, I think there were two things that helped me. There's certainly more than two things, but there's two things I can identify with making it to the highest level of the sport from a small town in Maine. Number one, I had tremendous support from people. I was fast right off early in my career, and that attracted people. They wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to help. And I think the other thing is I just didn't know any better. I mean, I really felt like I was going to be a NASCAR driver, a Winston Cup driver one day, and I never took my eye off the ball. I set goals annually where I wanted to be, and if I achieved that, I'd march forward. Now, I got to admit, when I reflect on it, I say, wow, I don't know if I could have ever done that if I knew how difficult it was going to be. And, but when you do it real time, you just find a way to get through it. And it wasn't easy moving from New England to Charlotte, North Carolina. We had a 6-week-old baby girl. I had just gotten married a year earlier. And Kay and I, my wife, it was really uncomfortable. New England is just a different environment than living in North Carolina, and we had to acclimate ourselves to a lot of things. And anyway, we found a way to get through it. People were really good to us, and I'm proud of my career. It's never perfect, right? It's never perfect. Yeah. But I'm happy that I got the opportunity, and I'm happy that I was able to capitalize on most of my opportunities.
We'll be back with more with Ricky Craven from ESPN right after we take this time out. This is On Pit Row, fastest 2 hours on Ustream.
This is On Pit Row. On Pit Row.
MyMetroToledo.net, the place to go when you want to know where to go.